Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative. Speaking to Courtney Nichole about Tyler Perry's assisted living on BET. Welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I mean, simple question just to start to get it to get it going here. I mean, what's it like working on this show, Tyler Perry's assisted living, Courtney?
Oh my goodness. I mean, just amazing. I keep saying that's the only word I can think of that's like big enough to describe all of my excitement, to be able to, be working with Mr. Tyler Perry himself. He created and wrote this series, directed it. We do have some additional directors and writers now, but like he's the man, and then also to be on such a beautiful cast. I mean, It's such a gift. To be with David and Tamela Mann. They've worked with him for years, and their, relationship with him, in addition to J. Anthony Brown, Naeem Lynn, even the kids on the show are amazing. So it's just an all around awesome experience.
Absolutely. And I've talked to other people that got a chance to work with Tyler Perry and his projects. He also works pretty quick. What's it like for this show? Like in terms of the taping of it, is it quick?
Yeah, he likes to let you know that he can film 90. I've heard him say in an interview that he filmed like 100 pages in like one day. So he likes to keep setting, goals and for himself that he can meet. So we filmed pretty quickly, but they make sure you're taken care of over there. And, I feel like as an actor, we are always training, and this is what you're training for.
Absolutely. What would you say is your favorite thing about this show specifically? I mean, you talked a little bit like about what's it like working on it. You kind of brought it up, like the cast and crew. Is there something that you love the most about this show specifically?
I love the multi-generational family aspect of the show. I grew up with my grandfather in my home, so it's very relatable to me to have, this Grandpa Vinny character. I'm from Chicago, so, the fact that this family, Leah and her husband, are moving to Georgia from Chicago is relatable. So that's just like, I think that's my one, big favorite thing about this show is that it has the kids to the old, older people, and we all get along.
Absolutely. And for people that, want to check it out, haven't gotten the chance to watch it yet, what can you tell us specifically about this show and your character on the show, Courtney?
You know what? So I play a loving wife, supportive mom. My kids are teenagers. So if you have some teenagers in your house, you know what that's like. And if you've moved around, you know what that's like, trying to move teenagers that are in high school from one location to the other. They didn't want to go, but this show is about family. It's relatable. So basically my husband thought he would have some inheritance after his grandmother died. We went down to visit grandpa, and he has used this money to buy this horrible, dilapidated, I'll say, assisted living facility. And we're like, okay, wait, now if this was our inheritance, then how can we make this go right? So Mr. Brown and Cora come in as investors. And, a lot of that was dealt with and handled in season 1, which I'm sure people can find. And hopefully they watched it. But for season 2, we now have some residents. We have to pay Mr. Brown back that $40,000 that he keeps talking about. So we're just making sure that we can, be up and running. So, and that we're able to run our facility. So we're just having fun now. We have some residents that have moved in. And it just makes it even more interesting. I feel like, the dynamics in the house, everyone's pretty different.
Oh, absolutely. There is a lot going on, and there are some laughs, and there's a lot happening. But it's interesting because, it's a show, it's comedy, it could be considered, it's a sitcom, but it's one of those things where, when I grew up watching sitcoms, a lot of them basically and had to do with, it was a lot of slapstick, it was goofy. Now I find a lot of them are packing a lot of stuff in there too. There's a lot of like growing experiences, learning experiences. For you as a storyteller and an actor, when did you notice that change in comedy? Was it
And
like a while ago? Because there's been a shift, I find, where they're more
you
packed
know
with life
what? It's
lessons.
interesting. That's a good question because I feel like I can think of Martin, the Martin show with Martin Lawrence.
Yep.
And I know that was very funny. You had Bruh Man who would just come in through the window. So you still had those funny, crazy things that happen. But I feel like they dealt with a lot of like real relationship stuff, things like that. So and then, I grew up with like the Cosby Show and Full House, and those maybe those weren't like strong comedies. They might have had more drama to them, but I feel like those were shows that tried to send a message, like last episode we're talking about, my son and him wanting to drive, like that's a real issue. And then on the other hand, we had one of the new residents, Miss Anastasia, who was getting old, and that was happening. So we had to take her keys. And to be honest, like I think that's like these are the relatable things that I'm talking about. Like I remember when my great grandmother, she kept knocking out people's like side view mirrors, and it was like eventually I remember my
Yes.
parents trying to have a conversation with her about taking keys. And then here I am in this scene, like you said, as a storyteller and just being able to use that and tap into it. So I think that I'll say in the 90s. I
Yeah,
think
the
I kind of
90s
feel like
definitely
a
had the
change
90s.
started to happen with the storytelling.
100%. The 90s had those. There's a lot of shows like that with like the problem solving, the family morals. But I just find, a lot of shows that I watched like for sitcom, it was just like you didn't have to be that engaged. You know what I mean? It was just slapstick goofiness. You know what I mean? And that's changed in comedy. And I think I like that. I like that I have to
I
be
do
more
too.
engaged.
And I feel like we have a good mix on our show. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, people absolutely love Mr. Brown on our show. David Mann is an amazing just artist, I call him. And people might not look at him as a comedian, but if you think about his timing and the things that he creatively has to his comebacks, I mean, he is very much a comedian, just as much as I feel like J. Anthony Brown and Naeem Lynn that are on the show. So we have, that Mr. Brown funny, of course, where his knees are always ashy and, he's doing something crazy, but, he'll come back and bring that message around. So, and then, you have some more, like my character may be a little more grounded, the husband, the kids. So I think you have a really good mix on our show, and I can appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I think Mr. Perry does a great job of knowing his audience and keeping his finger on the pulse of what people want to see, so.
100%. You're acting in
Yeah.
this show, but we talked about it before. It's storytelling, whether you're on camera or behind the camera. You're obviously acting, you're focusing on that. Are you noticing, whether with yourself or people that colleagues you work with, that more people are gravitating towards wanting to wear many hats and like act, write, direct, and go behind the camera? Like that's happening a lot, I find.
Of course. I had this teacher one time, and he used to say that, we have to be our plan A, and that Hollywood can be our plan B.
For sure.
There's an old, one of those old proverbs that people say, build it and it'll come. And I really believe that that's true. Like you're saying, like, a lot of us, like I've directed myself as well. I've directed 2 shorts. I have written on web series, and I'm creating my own show that I would love to pitch, so absolutely, we want to try our hand at several things. And I think it just makes you a more well-rounded artist, as a matter of fact. Like think about a director. If a director took an acting class, it would make it much easier for that director to be able to communicate effectively with their actors once they're on set, because they can speak the language, and vice versa. As an artist and an actor on a television show, I'm thinking about the director. Like even think about this show. So this is a multicam comedy.
Yeah.
So we have several cameras going at the same time. And so in my mind, I'm thinking like, all right, editing, right? Okay, so I want to do similar movements. I want to kind of have the same cadences, make it easier for them in the editing room, because I've edited some of my own projects.
Yeah.
And I try to be very good about asking, like, if the director's like, hey, well, do that again. Okay, you want the same thing or you want something different, right? So it's like, I have all brains working as well, right? I'm thinking about the editor, I'm thinking about the director because I've done those things. So I think it just helps build, your value and
makes
your
you more
worth.
well-rounded as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a benefit to you.
Absolutely. But I feel like it just happens naturally. Like same with my show now. Like I'm doing everything naturally.
Everything. Yeah. But you get good at it, and then you know what you like and what you don't like. So it's amazing. Definitely. And I know that even like I believe like the House of Pain show that comes on before ours, Lance Gross, who's been on that show for seasons, he wrote an episode in this last season. I know Carl Payne, he's in the Young Dylan series that's on Nickelodeon that also came out under Mr. Tyler Perry. He just directed an episode. So it's just, you see it happening around you, and that's just in the Tyler Perry Studios camp, but it happens all around. Think about Grey's Anatomy and Debbie Allen hopping in and then directing still. So it happens all the time. So we're all staying in our lane and trying to move our careers forward.
But it's interesting too when you say, you're gonna like some things, you're gonna like you're not gonna like other things. But I feel like also to add to that too, there's situations where like you're gonna have to do certain things. You're gonna have to like edit or be a cameraman, and like it might not be something you're super comfortable. Like you're gonna have to learn.
And that's okay, right? Absolutely. I mean, those are gifts. They might scare you in the moment, but it's that same philosophy of you trying and failing. You can't be successful, right, if you haven't tried something and probably failed a few times and figured out how to get it right or make it right, and then you find some success a lot of times. So like an actor, how many times do we hear no before we hear all you need is the one yes sometimes to just kind of move things forward. So I look at it as a gift when I'm thrown into situations like that. So
100%. Courtney, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on Popternative. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you having me.
So Tyler Perry's Assisted Living on BET. Can you plug away? I
will plug away. So tonight, actually, we are having our mid-season finale. The show comes on Tuesday nights, 9:30, 8:30 Central on BET, Tyler Perry's Assisted Living. So make sure you check it out.
And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
You can find me everywhere. I'm on Instagram as The Real Courtney, and that's REEL, like movie real. So The Real Courtney there. I'm The Real Courtney on Twitter, and you can find me on Facebook at if I believe that's The Real Courtney as well. If not, it's Courtney Nichole. So.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Be sure to catch Courtney Nichole in Tyler Perry's Assisted Living on the BET network. Until next time, this is Courtney and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.